So we're finally here talking about Berserk, and I'm actually hyped that I'm here. You know what I'm saying? Berserk. I didn't know many things going into Berserk before reading it. Like I knew it was peak, or it was said to be peak by almost everyone, and that it had a lot of mature topics and it had a lot of like heavy shit in it. So I knew that coming into it. I was always curious before reading Berserk, like why everyone had it pretty much almost unanimously known as the greatest manga of all time. And while I still don't really know the answer to that exactly, I do have the answer to why the Golden Age arc is one of the best arcs of all time. So I'm gonna get into the Golden Age arc because that's the first main arc of Berserk, and it's a 10 out of 10. Like I'm not even gonna lie to you. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. You know what I'm saying, if you want more Berserk content or more anime content in general, because I talk about that. I'll try to do it every week. You know what I'm saying, school's tough, but we'll get to it. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button, the bell notification, like the video, all that good stuff. So yeah, we're back to the video. The arc starts with the backstory of the protagonist, Guts. This is our main character, you know what I'm saying? He's that nigga. I'm not gonna lie, Guts probably has the worst backstory in manga ever. His backstory starts with him being born in the womb of his dead, hung mom. Like you heard that right. Like his mom was hung to death, and he was just chilling in her womb. And a gang basically found him, and although like most of the members were just gonna leave him there to die, one of the I guess I'm gonna say like the wife of the main leader was like, oh, let me take care of him, blah blah blah. And the main gang leader was alright, whatever, you know what I'm saying, it doesn't really matter. Come to find out that the woman that takes care of Guts early on, which is basically the wife of the gang leader, ends up dying. And for some godforsaken reason, the gang leader basically acts like it's Guts' fault, because Guts is seen as this bad omen because of the circumstances of where he was born. So because of that, the guy ends up secretly resenting Guts his entire life. So much so that he basically like lets Guts get raped. Like not only lets him get raped, but a guy comes to saying, oh, you know what I'm saying, let me take this kid's virginity, which is crazy. And the guys and the gang leaders are like, cool, just slide me some bread. And that's fucked up as it is, you know what I'm saying? It's even more fucked up when the gang leader pulls up on Guts and tells him all this shit, and he's like, I've never liked you, and tries to kill him. And obviously Guts is doing whatever he can to survive, and he ends up killing the bro. But it's just like, damn. After that happens, obviously the gang, they see Guts as this bad guy because he killed the gang leader. They're like, oh yeah, we never should have taken care of you. The gang leader took you in as his son and you killed him. And they chase after him and shit. He basically survives, but he gets attacked by wolves. He falls off a cliff. Basically, a bunch of fucked up shit. And this is like by the time he's age of 7. So his early childhood's pretty fucked up. And as we learn more in the story, that's not even all of his backstory. That's just like as of him being a kid. But after that stuff, things got a little bit better for him. He runs to this gang called the Band of the Hawks, where we're introduced to the two other main characters in the story, who are Griffith and Casca. So we can talk about Griffith first, because I feel like low-key this arc is really about Griffith. Like he's low-key the main character, even though Guts is the actual protagonist of Berserk. So Griffith is seen as this all-around perfect being for the Band of the Hawk members, which is obviously the gang he's a part of. Like when I say perfect, I mean he's known as the strongest fighter ever. He's just great at everything. He's a tactician. He's amazing, right? Like real quick. Like when I say perfect, I mean in every way. Just real quick, we can talk about how canonically he's just known as this pretty ass nigga. Like pause, you can say whatever you want. But in the series, people will be like, oh yeah, this thing is pretty. Griffith obviously takes that to his advantage, but Griffith uses his pretty quote unquote status to show off, to like basically get farther in his goal. And it's just kind of crazy that like Griffith, like the women love him, the niggas love him. Griffith is just quote unquote a pretty ass nigga in the series. Like that's just kind of what he is. Like everyone's complimenting his appearance. It's just super funny. But yeah, that'll go on to his goal. And Griffith's goal, which is a pretty heavy goal in the series overall, is basically to rule an entire kingdom. And obviously we're told early on, because this is not a shonen, but this is an anime / manga, and we know usually if you have a goal, you really try to stick to it. Like you'll do whatever it takes to get there. And everyone always says that, so cliche, like, oh, I'll do whatever it takes to get there. But we find out a little bit later that this nigga Griffith will really do whatever it takes, and we see that a little bit later. So that's really all the stuff for Griffith as of right now. Then we have the other main character that we learn about in the Band of the Hawks, who is Casca. So she's the only female member of the Hawks, and not only that, she's also the second in command of the band after Griffith, and she's known as the second strongest in the the gang. She sees the Band of the Hawks and especially Griffith as her family. And the reason that this is the case is because when she was a little kid, or I guess when she was younger, she was about to be raped by someone, and the person that saved her was Griffith. And Griffith was like, ayo, he gave her a sword. He was like, follow, do what you want to do type shit. And she basically became indebted to him and was just like, all right, I'm gonna follow you type shit. So that's kind of that's how their journey started together, and that's kind of what we see. So we see that it's Griffith, Casca, and then the other members of the Band of the Hawk. But long story short, Guts and Griffith fight because Guts is he's really an aggressive ass nigga. Like if you like Kenpachi or insert nigga that likes to fight all the time, Guts is kind of that nigga. Especially early on, he just does shit. He just does shit for shit's sake. He ends up fighting Griffith, and Griffith beats his ass like almost really like pretty easily, low key. Like he gets low diffed or whatever, right? So he gets beaten, and according to the rules of the duel, Griffith owns Guts. He's like, you will do whatever I say whenever I say it type shit. And that's like the whole thing. So initially with Casca, she has a lot of resentment towards Guts because she feels like Guts is a hindrance to Griffith's goal. Like I told you, Casca takes this whole thing with Griffith's goal very seriously. Like she'll do whatever it takes to help Griffith get to his goal. So she feels like with Guts, messing with his, if Guts is interfering with his duel, it's not good type thing. She's also very jealous of Guts because there's even scenes early on where we see from Casca's point of view, Griffith is saying things to Guts that she never heard. Like she sees how Griffith is showing more concern for Guts than he showed for anyone else, and obviously she doesn't like that. Slowly, as Casca sees how Guts aids in Griffith's life, she softens up to him and eventually falls in love with him. So we have a little love story there going on there, you know what I'm saying? Berserk is a heavy ass series, but you know what I'm saying, we still have the love stuff. So there's that. But by all accounts and purposes, Guts is one of the strongest niggas in the verse, right? He's like really powerful for a human nigga. That's always something that's noticed by like the monsters and the people that they fight. They're always like, oh, this Guts nigga's strong. So when Guts joins the gang, they go on a crazy win streak basically. And due to their various victories, their band raises in fame, and they're hired to aid in the 100-Year War for the King of Midland. So during one of the raids, they encounter this really crazy ass demon monster thing called the legendary swordsman Zod. And like, let me just say, like, this nigga, when I say he's crazy strong, he's crazy strong. Like he beats this thing of Guts in like one attack. Like it's crazy. Like Guts is on the verge of dying until Griffith pulls up. And it's not even that Griffith pulls up and defeats the legendary swordsman Zod. It's like he just mysteriously like escapes after he sees the pendant on Griffith's neck or whatever. And we're gonna learn that a lot later how important that pendant is. Like that pendant's called the Crimson Bareth. So we learn that a little bit later how crazy it is, but that's the only reason that Zod didn't like one-shot everyone there type shit. So the 100-Year War finds its conclusion after Griffith leads the Midland troops to recapture the Thole Dre successfully. And basically after that, this is a really big turning point in the series when Guts basically asks Griffith why he saves him. And he's just like, I just saved you because that's like the right thing to do. And what's really important about that to Guts is that up until this point in time, Guts has never had someone that really cared for him just to be a good person type shit, right? We saw earlier with his quote-unquote dad, that nigga never fucked with him, right? It was never a thing of he didn't care for him. Guts has always had to kind of watch over his back by himself. And when he sees that Griffith really cares, he's like, okay. That kind of leads him to the decision that he wants to wield his sword for Griffith. And even though he kind of already was doing that, he was only doing it out of like honor, whatever, right? So that's kind of where it is at. And after that, Griffith basically sends Guts to assassinate the brother of the king, whose name is Julius. And the reason for this is because Griffith, obviously we know, wants to keep on going up the hierarchy until he can eventually own a kingdom. And the brother of the king is in the way of that. So, Guts being the nigga that he is, he's able to kill Julius, but shit kind of hits the fan quickly because he accidentally kills Julius's son Adonis. And it's interesting because the thing with Adonis and Guts, there's a cool parallel there where Adonis is very similar to Guts in his opinion because they both kind of don't have a home. Like they both feel like outcasts in the world. So Guts killing what he would seem as a younger version of himself kind of throws him off course. And he goes through this whole emotional roller coaster and he's looking for Griffith to kind of like console him, to tell him what happened and shit. And he sees Griffith giving basically a speech for the princess. And in that speech, we basically get a really good view of Griffith's goal and how he views the world. So we basically learn that for him, dreams are the most important thing in a person's life, and they stand over everything. And like Griffith doesn't really understand people who don't have a dream or their own dreams. And Griffith could never really live like that type of way. He can't just live in a world where you don't have a dream type shit. And anyone without a dream can't be his true friend. And although he didn't mean for it to happen, that kind of changes Guts' whole perspective on life. Guts feels at that point he can't stand beside Griffith as an equal. He can't be like, look him in the eye type shit. Guts wants to become a man that Griffith can respect. So because of that, he actually changes his kind of whole mindset on things, and he wants to go and find his purpose in life. So that leaves him to trying to leave the band and stuff. But one thing that you understand with Griffith is Griffith doesn't play with the shit that's his. So Griffith's like, bro, like I own you, and like if you want to get yourself back, you have to beat me in a fight. And there's this cool ass panel that I actually never knew what it was for. I've seen some Berserk panels from time to time because I'm a anime YouTuber, right? Funny enough. But it was a really, really cool panel where we see Griffith and Guts in their like they're about to clash, and it's just a cool, really, really good panel. So they have their second fight, and Guts kind of one-shots, bro. Like, it's actually insane. And I feel like from this point on, Guts is stronger than Griffith, which is a really, really big deal. Like, Griffith is kind of supposed to be the GOAT. So Guts beats Griffith and he leaves. So during that journey, Guts is going to find himself. Like, that's his whole journey. He wants to find his true calling and whatnot. And that's what he's doing. Meanwhile, Griffith and the band of Hawks are low-key taking L's because Griffith is, he's whoring around. He was messing with, I think, the king's daughter, and he gets caught up. And basically, long story short, he was basically caught and tortured for an entire year straight. So when Guts comes back to the gang and finds out what's happening, he's just like, oh, what the fuck happened? One of the things that Guts learned on his journey is that even though Griffith thinks that if you don't have a dream, it's not worth living, Guts kind of accepts that not everyone has to have this ultimate crazy Hokage-esque dream type shit. And it's okay to just live life for the sake of living it type thing. So that's something that Guts really like learns and stuff. But it's honestly kind of unfortunate because he realizes that, well, Guts in his opinion says that he shouldn't have left the whole gang because he had everything he ever wanted, which is a family that loved him for him, which was the Band of the Hawks. And then it's a kind of a sad moment, really, really sad when you learn a little bit later because he's like, damn, why do I always realize this stuff a little too late? Because if Guts doesn't leave the Band of the Hawks, Griffith probably doesn't get captured because that's something that, Griffith wouldn't have done. I think even Casca says it that Griffith kind of changed when Guts left. Like, Griffith needed Guts to be there for him to kind of cope or, operate the way he does. So, Guts and the Band of the Hawks go to save Griffith, and they actually do, which is kind of tough. But by the time we see Griffith, that nigga is saying he's a shell of himself is an understatement. Like Griffith looks like he hasn't eaten anything within within the last year, basically, right? I think they said they cut off the tendons of his arms and legs, which is fucking wild. They cut off his tongue. Like, it's so bad that Griffith, he's just limping. I don't even think he can talk. It's just a crazy scene. I think one of the doctors is even like, yeah, Griffith, he'll never wield a sword again. So like his whole dream of owning this kingdom, all this stuff, it's over. Like, Griffith was, again, I always said, pause, obviously. They said he was a pretty ass nigga, but everyone was like, damn, he lost his glow and all that stuff. And it's pretty crazy. It was a sad thing to see. But they do say when you're at your lowest, your true character comes out, and like, I'm not gonna lie, this nigga Griffith was a snake because he was at his lowest, and we just see Griffith's true character. It's kind of fucked up, honestly, because we find out that Griffith was kind of using Guts and the Band of the Hawk to further his goal. And when given the opportunity, he sacrifices them all to get more power. Like I said a little bit earlier, we always were told that Griffith would do whatever it took to get to his goal, but then we see like he gives up everyone. Like, everyone in the Band of Hawks it's nothing to him. It doesn't really matter. So he activates the Crimson Barreth, which I was talking about, which is this cool pendant that we didn't really know. It always had this mysterious aura to it. Like, we didn't understand it at the point, but we basically find out that it can summon these demonic creatures called the God Hand. And with the God Hand comes the Apostles, which are other monsters. So the God Hand basically break it down like this. They're like, bro, you can become the final member of our situation, like our group, which is the God Hand, in exchange for sacrificing your comrades during what's called the 5th eclipse. And even though like they say it's supposed to be this destiny thing, like, oh, you becoming our 5th member named Femto is destiny, it's still your decision to make. So like, if you say no, this shit'll like, we'll leave or something, I guess. I don't really know. But they're like, they do explain to him, they're like, bro, you gotta understand that. Like, look, they basically, I don't know if this is using some demonic magic or something. They basically show him how many people have died for his dream already. Like, they literally show the whole visualization is the hundreds or thousands of corpses that he's already had to step on to get to his goal. They're like, bro, like, it would be worthless for you to go back now. And he's like, shit, you're right. And what starts is the fucking eclipse. And let me say, this is probably some of the craziest shit I've ever seen in manga, because we just see niggas die out the wazoo. And like, they go into detail on some of the main members of how the gang and how they die. Like, one person, shout out him, he basically saves Casca from, dying from one of the monsters. One nigga thinks he's about to get some cheeks from this woman, but it's really a demonic monster too. It's just like, niggas are just dying. And like, basically the only two people who are surviving at this point are Casca and Guts. And I've already kind of explained Guts because he's that nigga. Like, Guts is literally, if we're talking about humans, he's probably a top 1 nigga in the verse. Like, Guts is for some reason unnecessarily powerful. So that's why Guts is kind of getting by. Casca, the reason why she's surviving is it's a little fucked up. Well, it's a lot of fucked up, honestly. The monsters, because Casca's a woman, the monsters are thinking, let's get some pleasure out of her before we kill her. And basically they're R-wording her, they're raping her. So like I said, Berserk has some crazy ass topics in it, so you gotta kind of be aware of what's happening. But yeah, so they're basically raping Casca, and Guts is, he's the strong ass nigga. He's holding off the demons and stuff, but he's seeing all his friends around him just dying. And not even that. I think by the time we see Guts, he's most of his friends are already dead. Like the monsters are using the corpses of his friends, and it's just fucked up to see. And like Guts is going insane. He's just wilding out. And then he sees Casca getting raped, and it's like, oh, like Guts is like fuming. Like I don't think Guts has ever been more mad than at this moment. Like I think people always say he has like a berserk mode. Like he's in his berserk mode right now. So he's wilding out, but he gets caught up by one of the monsters. They grab his arm, and Guts basically sacrifices his arm in an attempt to save Casca, but his shit is not enough. And Griffith, again, because Griffith, when the eclipse started, Griffith was starting to transform. He had his whole cocoon thing, and he finally gets out of his cocoon in this little, I like to say he looks like a bat low-key, but he has his demonic bat form now. And then Griffith just goes to rape Casca. It's like, bro, what the fuck are you doing? Like Griffith is just really a menace, like a Black Air Force energy. Like you can't describe Griffith at this point in time as anything besides that. Like I don't know why he ended up raping her, because just he had no reason to. Like you have no reason to rape anyone, obviously. Like you shouldn't do that. But Griffith especially, I don't even understand his like logic behind it. But long story short, Guts loses his arm and his eye through all the battles with all the demons and stuff, and it looks like all hope is lost. Like it looks like everyone is going to die here. Funny enough, this cool looking monster thing called Skull Knights comes through the eclipse and saves Guts and Casca after beating Zod. So I don't really know much about Skull Knight. When I read or watch a new series, I always like to show my progress on Twitter. But whenever I talk about Skull Knight, niggas are like, he's top 1. So that nigga's tough for some reason. But yeah, Guts and Casca are the only survivors. But it's not like they survive without any, trauma. Besides the PTSD and, the traumatized shit that's happened to them, they have these demonic marks that I think, from what I remember, kind of lets them know when monsters are around. So they're always going to be targeted by all this demon magic stuff. It's always going to target them because of the mark that Griffith gave to them, basically. So basically, to touch on the Casca shit, like the shit was so traumatic for her that she lost her memory in shock of the whole event. And she has a whole overall fear of men in general because of it. So like Guts' goal in the series, and it's just in just this arc alone, Guts' goal has changed a lot from, him striving for validation for others, to then fighting for Griffith, to then finding his purpose in life. But right now, his only goal is to put that nigga Griffith in the dirt, and I guess a side goal of saving Casca or protecting her and stuff. But it's kind of fucked up. So yeah, but after this whole situation and shit, Guts gets a flamethrower for an arm, and he gets this iconic big chunk of iron. So like that's kind of tough, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, so I mean, Guts has a flamethrower and a big ass, like he has this big chunk of iron as weapons. So I mean, like, why would he not be an S tier character? So we see Guts has this new goal of killing Griffith, like I said, and basically kind of just wanders around fighting demons and just getting stronger and stuff. So it's probably one of the craziest intro arcs ever, because like I knew that Berserk was a heavy manga, but I didn't expect certain shit to happen. Like when I was reading it, like when he left the first time, I was thinking, okay, so that's how his story starts out. Like when he left the gang the first time, I'm thinking, okay, that's how his story starts out. But then you go and see all the shit that happened in the fucking eclipse. It's like, yo, this nigga Berserk has been through some shit. Like he's not had a peaceful life whatsoever. So it's just really crazy to see overall. I am looking forward to seeing more about Griffith, because one of the few things I know about Berserk is that people say he's an S tier antagonist, and obviously I've seen his whole mindset and stuff, and even though people might say he wasn't evil the whole time, it's like, damn, you see how Griffith kind of viewed people. He doesn't view anyone as his equal, even people like Guts. It was like, damn. So we're gonna see when Guts and Griffith eventually like meet face to face in a fight. That'll be interesting to come find out if Casca ever gets her memory back. That'll be good. But it's just this is some serious ass shit. Like it's a 10 out of 10 arc, like honestly. But yeah, let me know what you think about Berserk, because a lot of you guys have seen it already. So don't spoil things in the comments. That would be kind of whack. Or yeah, don't do that. That's not cool. But yeah, let me know what you guys thought on the Golden Age arc and what your thoughts were while reading it. That's really interesting. So yeah, that's it for me though. So I'm out. Peace.